Okay, the video started coming up on my feed for who's going to replace Tulsi Gabbard, and apparently it's a shock. So I don't know anything more about it than that. Let's check it out, guys.
President Trump has just named Bill Pulte as the acting director of national intelligence,
Bill Pulte,
replacing Tulsi Gabbard. Let's go live to the White House right now. Our senior White House reporter, Kevin Liptak, is working the story. Pulte is already serving as the director of the Federal House Finance Agency.
Interesting.
Does he have any intelligence experience?
So he's the money man. He already understands the money. That is a very strong benefit for Pulte. And if you understand where the money goes, then you must be a step closer to being a director of intelligence. As we all remember, I guess it was John F. Kennedy, our president, our assassinated president. His father was Joseph Kennedy and was the one who worked a lot of the financial stuff in the Securities and Exchange Commission. Money very closely tied to politics. As we all know, that's nothing new. Let's keep watching.
None that we know of, Wolf. You know, to call this appointment an unorthodox one, I think would be an understatement here. You know, he's the heir to a construction company fortune. He's been in this mortgage role for the last year or so. What he is a real true Trump loyalist. You know, he's a frequent.
Honestly, a lot of people that have managed large amounts of money in big businesses really understand people very well because they've had so many experiences with people reporting to them. They understand how not to micromanage. So I can only assume that Bill Pulte is that. Also, he's a loyalist. Let me just say, without hearing the rest of that video play out, of course you're going to hire a loyalist, especially for intelligence. What are you going to do? Hire someone that disagrees with you? That does not make sense. You could say, oh, well, let's get someone who doesn't agree with me so they offer another point of view. If you did that with every position, you wouldn't get anything done and you'd be in deep shit for stacking your cabinet with people that don't agree with you. By the time you've made it to president, you already understand how to surround yourself with people that make you stronger. So it seems like honestly, it seems like a great pick off first glance for me.
Guest on Air Force One and at Mar-a-Lago, and what you've seen him doing is leveraging this role that he's in at the mortgage agency to try and go after some of Trump's perceived enemies, using allegations of mortgage fraud to go after the New York Attorney General Letitia James, the Fed Governor Lisa Cook, in some ways that.
And don't forget, I don't know if he's going to mention this, but E. Jean Carroll, who Trump was convicted of sexually assaulting, she was just placed under investigation, which obviously the left is very upset about because it seems like she said that her court case was not being financed by anyone other than herself. They said that she hired lawyers that were actually taking their money on the back end without any initial investment by her. But now they found that it seems like a wealthy Democrat, the name's escaping me, put up some of the money for her campaign, which she failed to disclose previously. So he may be behind that wave as well. I would not be surprised. Let's see if they mention it.
Effort has not succeeded, but it has, I think, engendered an enormous amount of goodwill towards him by the president, and now the president putting him in charge of the expansive American intelligence community. Writing on social media, quote, William has deep experience managing the most sensitive matters in America, the safety and soundness of the markets, and over $1 trillion at Fannie Mae / Freddie Mac, a substantial increase from where it was just 12 months ago. And he also says, also surprisingly, that he will continue in that job even as he is now going to be appointed the acting director of national intelligence, essentially suggesting that he will be splitting his time between his current job and what is an enormous position. You know, the DNI.
This is a much bigger position, in my opinion. The guy's got a lot of information, though. That's for sure.
Position was created after 9/11 to essentially coordinate all of these intelligence streams from the 17 intelligence agencies inside the federal government. And so it's an enormous job, but I also think it signals where the president sees this job heading. You know, he did not necessarily rely on the incumbent DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, for intelligence matters. He has relied on the CIA director far more for those subjects. Instead, he looked to her to sort of go after some of his obsessions, whether it's to try and advance claims of voting fraud, whether it was to try and downplay allegations of Russian election meddling. This, I think, suggests that the president will put in this position someone who has gone after this retribution campaign, who has advanced some ideas of vindication against some of his enemies. He doesn't say whether he will be appointing him to the permanent job, but because Bill Pulte was already approved by the Senate for his current job, he will be able to stay in this position for quite some time.
Kevin, has the White House explained why Pulte is the man who should be in charge of the U.S. intelligence community? The Director of National Intelligence, as you know, and as you correctly point out, oversees the CIA, the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, all the intelligence agencies in the military, at the State Department, INR, Intelligence and Research. What qualifies him to do that?
The only qualifications that the White House has specified is what President Trump is pointing.
I mean, the same as Tulsi Gabbard, right? What qualified Tulsi Gabbard to do it, right? And we didn't see a lot of stuff from her, just messages. The most recent message I covered was the one about following God, which I found to be a little bit of a problem with separation of church and state. But honestly, I agreed with her message. I just thought it was a little preachy, but I think it's good to spread that message. I just wish it could have been a little bit more tailored for everybody's religion, I guess I'll say.
Pointing out on his Truth Social, which is what he calls experiencing managing the most sensitive matters in America. Now, what he's managing are these mortgage agencies. You know, his current position really sort of involves ensuring that the mortgage market remains sound. You know, how that is relevant to this intelligence job, we don't have a firm explanation for that quite yet, but I do think you can read into what Pulte has used his job to do as how President Trump views the DNI position. He has used his access to the mortgage information in his current position to go after Trump's perceived enemies. And I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that he would use his access as the intelligence director to also potentially advance the retribution campaign. That has been sort of the most prominent way that we have seen Bill Pulte
that would be corruption, right?
Act in the job that he is currently in. And so how this proceeds going forward remains to be seen. But clearly the president is someone who has really put a premium on trying to go after his enemies, but also has been frustrated that that has not been particularly effective or particularly quick so far in his term so far. That's part of the reason.
And look, I understand that, right? You want to keep people from slowing you down at doing your job. If you believe you're doing a great job for the American people, and people that try to slow you down, you want to make an example out of them, not in any callous, overreaching or overmeasured way. You just want justice to be dispensed fairly as you see and as the courts see, because obviously Trump doesn't dispense his own justice.
Why he dismissed Pam Bondi as Attorney General. I think he sees Bill Pulte as someone who has been perhaps more effective in doing that in this, you know, clearly much more minor job at the mortgage agencies. And so we don't know how he will behave in this.
Very interesting, guys. Let me know what you think about this, about Trump's new appointment in the comments. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay locked in.